I am the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion, and today is my wedding day to the Crown Prince. However, right at the wedding feast, my mother, the current Prime Minister's wife, actually lifted the veil of my younger sister with her own hands, revealing her swollen belly. Mother knelt before the imperial court, weeping bitterly. Your Majesty, my second legitimate daughter Qinghe has been deeply in love with His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, and she is already pregnant out of wedlock. Now, to preserve the royal dignity, your servant's wife begs Your Majesty to allow my two daughters to serve the same husband, and let Qinghe become the Crown Prince's concubine. The whole hall erupted in an uproar, and everyone waited to see me collapse in tears, enduring this great humiliation. Yet under the shocked gazes of everyone, I helped my mother up. Turning around, I made a graceful bow to the Son of Heaven on the imperial throne, my voice clear and melodious. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and sister Qinghe are truly in love with each other. I voluntarily request to annul the marriage contract. Please, Your Majesty, bestow me in marriage to Prince Qinghe. Welcome to listen to the ancient Chinese romance story. I'm the blogger and I'm Whispers of Phoenix. Now let's start the main story. I am Su Zi, the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion. Today should have been the grand wedding day between me and Crown Prince Xiao Jingyan. The 10-li red dowry stretched from the Prime Minister's mansion to the main gate of the imperial city, with brocade spread on the ground and music shaking the sky. I sat upright in the 8-carried sedan chair, my fingertips as cold as frost, but there was no trace of joy in my heart, only a silent cold pool. Through the gap in the sedan curtain, the noisy voices from the square in front of the Hall of Supreme Harmony were clearly audible, but to my ears, that deafening music was nothing but the death knell that had claimed my life in my previous existence. They all thought this was the most glorious moment of my life, but no one knew that I had already walked this path once before. At the end of my previous life, there was no phoenix throne of the Crown Princess, only a sea of blood from the execution of my entire family, and that cup of poisoned wine personally handed to me by my mother. Don't blame mother. Blame yourself for standing in Qinghe's way. Her smile back then overlapped with her feigned sorrowful face outside the sedan chair at this moment in my mind. The sedan chair suddenly stopped, and the music came to an abrupt halt. The noisy voices seemed to be choked by an invisible hand, instantly falling into deathly silence, followed by an uproar like a landslide and tsunami. I sat steadily in the sedan chair, my eyelashes not moving an inch. What was coming could never be avoided. From outside the sedan came my mother Zhang's heart-wrenching wails, piercing the silence of the entire square. Your Majesty, your servant's wife is guilty. I have failed to teach my daughter well, and I am ashamed of Your Majesty and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. I lifted a corner of the sedan curtain, and in the dazzling sunlight, I saw my mother dressed in her imperial Furenus magnificent robes, kneeling in embarrassment on the golden bricks. Beside her, my younger sister Su Qinghe had her veil torn off, her usually delicate and gentle pretty face covered with tears. What was even more striking was her swollen belly, which could no longer be concealed by her clothes. My God! Is second Miss Su pregnant? She must be at least 5 or 6 months along, and today is the Crown Prince's wedding. This is simply a huge scandal. Stares like poisoned arrows shot towards my wedding sedan. Some of sympathy, some of pity, but most of malicious ridicule. I saw my father Su Zhan trembling with anger, his old face turning as red as a liver, my eldest brother Su Wen with bloodshot eyes, his fists clenched so tightly that they creaked, and on the high platform Crown Prince Xiao Jingyan was putting on a show of helpless devotion, looking at Su Qinghe with full of compassion and at me with guilt. If I hadn't died once before, I would have truly been deceived by this hypocritical pretense. Mother continued to weep, kowtowing so hard that blood streamed down her forehead. Your Majesty, Qinghe has been deeply in love with the Crown Prince, and she made a mistake in a moment of confusion and got pregnant. Now it can't be hidden anymore. To preserve the royal dignity and the Crown Prince's bloodline, I beg Your Majesty to grant permission for my two daughters to serve the same husband, and let Qinghe enter the East Palace as a concubine. The whole hall fell into deathly silence, and everyone waited to see me collapse and cry, becoming a laughingstock to the whole world. But under the watchful eyes of everyone, I stretched out my hand and personally pushed open the sedan door. My golden-threaded phoenix-embroidered wedding shoes landed steadily on the ground. Dragging my heavy phoenix crown and embroidered robe, the hem of my skirt drew a decisive arc as I slowly walked towards my mother. Her crying stopped abruptly, and she stared at me in disbelief. I smiled faintly, my voice soft yet clear. "Mother, why are you putting yourself through this?" As I spoke, I bent down to help her up. Her body trembled uncontrollably. Whether it was an act or she was truly afraid, I didn't know. Naturally, the royal dignity is above everything else. I wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes, but my gaze passed over her and directly fell on the crown prince on the high platform. Then I turned around to face the imperial throne, straightened my wedding dress, and performed a standard curtsy. "Your Majesty, your servant's daughter believes that mother's proposal is inappropriate." The Son of Heaven's calm eyes finally rippled with emotion. I straightened my back and said loudly, "The Crown Prince and Sister Qinghe are truly in love with each other and already have the fruit of their love. This is a romantic story that deserves to be fulfilled. If I marry into the East Palace at this moment, wouldn't I become the villain who separates lovers? It would not only bring shame to His Royal Highness and Sister Qinghe, but also make the Su family a laughingstock to the whole world." As soon as the words fell, the Crown Prince's face turned pale in an instant, and Su Qinghe staggered, her delicate appearance arousing compassion from others. Meeting the Crown Prince's shocked gaze, my voice suddenly rose, resounding through the entire square. "Therefore, your servant's daughter voluntarily requests to annul the marriage contract with the Crown Prince." This earth-shaking statement caused an uproar in the audience. Before everyone could recover, I kowtowed again. "Your servant's daughter knows that this has damaged the royal prestige. I am willing to become a nun with my hair tied up, enter the royal temple to pray for the court, and fulfill this relationship." These words were impeccable. They preserved everyone's dignity and cleared me of all responsibility. But this was not my final destination. I raised my head, my eyes burning as I stared directly at the Son of Heaven, and said word by word, "Your servant's daughter dares to make one more request. I beg your Majesty to bestow me in marriage to Prince Qinghe Shaofeng, who has guarded the northern border for 10 years and not returned." Silence, complete and utter silence. If Mother's action was like throwing a boulder, my words were equivalent to detonating a volcano. Prince Qinghe Shaofeng, the current emperor's own younger brother, held 300,000 iron cavalry in the northern border. He was the pillar of stability of the Great Liang dynasty, but also a legendary ruthless devil who killed without blinking an eye and had no concubines even though he was nearly 30 years old. The noble ladies in the capital would rather marry a peddler than step into the Prince Qinghe mansion. "Suzy, are you crazy?" The Crown Prince could no longer maintain his demeanor, rushed down the high platform and grabbed my wrist tightly, his strength almost crushing my bones. "That's my uncle. He's a madman. Marrying him is asking for death. What happened today is my fault. I apologize to you. You enter the mansion first, and I will never treat you badly." He roared in a low voice, a trace of imperceptible panic hidden in his tone. I looked at him quietly, my gaze moving from his tightly clenched hand to his hypocritical face. In my previous life I was deceived by these few words and finally met a tragic end. "Your Royal Highness the Crown Prince," I said coldly, "have we ever performed the wedding ceremony of bowing to heaven and earth?" He was stunned and shook his head. "Since we haven't, I am not your wife." My voice was as sharp as an ice blade. "You love Sister Qinghe so much. If you can't even give her a proper status and let her follow you without a clear identity, wouldn't that make her and the Su family a laughingstock? Is this how you love her? Or are you humiliating us?" Every word was like a heavy hammer, making Xiao Jingyan's face paler and paler. Father finally reacted, stepped forward and cupped his hands. "Your Majesty, what my daughter said is absolutely correct. The Su family has been loyal for generations, and we are not soft persimmons to be bullied. I beg your Majesty to uphold justice for the Su family." Mother screamed and pounced on me. "You unfilial daughter! Are you trying to destroy the whole family?" I looked back at her coldly, my eyes so unfamiliar that they frightened her. "Mother, from the moment you knelt down, the one who destroyed everything was you. You value face the most. Now that it's a fact that the Crown Prince and Sister Qinghe are pregnant out of wedlock, only if I withdraw completely and marry Prince Qinghe, a royal prince, Can this scandal be whitewashed into a story where everyone gets what they deserve? The crown prince gets the beauty he loves, Sister Qinghe fulfills her wish, and I can also marry a hero. Isn't this a win-win situation? These words blocked all possibilities of mediation from others. The Son of Heaven on the imperial throne stared at me for a long time, and his eyes showed the appreciation of a chess player seeing a good horse. What a marrying a hero, bringing glory to the whole family. He stood up, the five-clawed golden dragon on his dragon robe shining brightly. I issue my imperial decree. Crown Prince Xiao Jingyan has failed in virtue. He is confined to the East Palace for 3 months to reflect on his mistakes. Su Qinghe has improper conduct, but considering that she may be carrying the imperial heir in her belly, she is conferred the title of Noble Lady of the Crown Prince, and will enter the East Palace on a selected date. Rewards will be discussed after she gives birth to the heir. Su Zi, the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion, is virtuous and upright, and understands the great principles. Her marriage contract with the Crown Prince is annulled, and she is bestowed in marriage to Prince Jing and Xiaofeng as his principal wife. The wedding will be held on the day of his triumphant return. By imperial command. Noble lady. A rank lower than concubine. I could almost imagine Su Qinghe's furious and distraught appearance. Xiao Jingyan roared in dissatisfaction, but was forcibly taken away by the imperial guards. I knew that the first step of my revenge had been taken steadily and fiercely. The journey back to the Prime Minister's mansion was terrifyingly silent. As soon as I entered the mansion gate, Mother pounced on me like a mad lion and slapped me hard across the face, the burning pain spreading. You evil spawn! I went to great lengths for you, planning for you to become the Empress in the future. Why did you destroy everything? I covered my burning cheek and laughed instead, the laughter sounding extremely strange in the silent main hall. Mother, touch your conscience and tell me, are you doing this for me or to let your grandson become emperor and make the Zhang family hold all the power in the court? You clearly knew about the Crown Prince and Qinghe's scandal, but you chose to make it public on my wedding day. Isn't it just to use me as a pawn to force the royal family to recognize Qinghe, making me a puppet principal wife so that you can control the harem? My words were like a sharp blade, tearing apart her hypocritical mask. Mother's face turned pale and she stumbled back. You're talking nonsense. Talking nonsense? I took a step forward and stared at her silently thinking, then what about that cup of poisoned wine you personally brought me in my previous life? Mother was terrified by the hatred in my eyes and screamed that I was crazy. Poisonous woman. Father kicked open the door and entered. Seeing the 5-finger marks on my face, his eyes turned red with anger. He pushed Mother away and protected me behind him. For your desire for power, you actually use your daughter as a stepping stone. Someone, take the madam back to Qingfeng courtyard and don't let her step out without my permission. Mother was dragged away crying and shouting. I watched coldly. In my previous life I believed her lies of doing it for my own good, and ended up with no bones left. Soon, the palace eunuch came to deliver the imperial decree, officially conferring me the title of Princess Jing'an. Father looked at me, full of worry. Prince Jing'an has a violent temperament, and the northern border is bitter and cold. Why did you choose him specifically? I poured Father a cup of hot tea, my eyes firm. Father, after today if I stay in the capital, the crown prince hates me to the bone, and Mother will not let me go. Sooner or later I will lose my life. Marrying to the northern border seems to be away from the prosperity, but in fact it is leaving the crown prince's sinking ship and clinging to a real backer. Prince Jing'an holds heavy military power, and is the backbone of the royal family. Marrying him not only allows me to protect myself, but also seeks a way to survive for the Su family. Father stared at me in shock, then burst into tears. Good. You are indeed my daughter, Su Zhen's daughter. Father will prepare your dowry immediately. Even if you marry to the ends of the earth, you will do so in style. In the days that followed, the entire Prime Minister's mansion was bustling with activity. Father almost emptied the treasury, preparing a dowry more generous than when I was going to marry the crown prince. As for me, I confined myself to the study, diligently reading documents about the northern border's customs, geography, military and political affairs. I was going to marry the god of war of Great Liang, and I would never be a caged bird who only knew about romance. Rumors abounded in the capital. Some laughed at me for being foolish, some mocked me for being obsessed, but I ignored them all. Qinghe was quietly carried into the East Palace without any ceremony or feast, becoming a laughingstock of the whole city. After being confined, the crown prince's temper became more and more irritable. Every day utensils were smashed in the East Palace, and Qinghe's life must have been miserable. Mother was confined to the courtyard, crying and cursing every day. When people from the Zhang family came to visit, they were all turned away by father. Time flew by, and the day of the crown prince's sudden death in my previous life was approaching. One afternoon my confidant maid Yunju hurried to report. Miss, news came from the palace. The crown prince vomited blood and fell into a coma this morning. The imperial physicians are helpless. I'm afraid he won't last long. My hand holding the brush paused slightly. Sure enough, it came. There's another thing. Someone from Prince Qinghe's mansion sent the betrothal gifts. Yunju's voice was filled with excitement. I quickly walked out of the study and saw dozens of black-armored soldiers standing solemnly in the courtyard, their aura fierce, making the servants of the Prime Minister's mansion dare not make a sound. Leading them was Chen Xiao, the deputy commander of the northern border's black-armored army, with a scar on his face. He knelt on one knee. This subordinate is ordered by the prince to send the betrothal gifts to the princess. The red-lacquered and gold-carved boxes were opened one by one. There were no gold, silver, pearls or jade, no silk and satin. The first box contained a pure white fur coat made of Arctic snow fox fur. The second box contained a sharp dagger inlaid with gemstones. There were 36 sedans of betrothal gifts, all rare and unique to the northern border, practical and valuable, carrying the harsh wind of the border. In the last box there lay a black iron token quietly, with the ancient seal character Feng engraved on it. The prince said that this is the Prince Qinghe token. Seeing the token is like seeing the prince himself. From now on, the 300,000 black-armored troops of the northern border will all obey the princess's orders. Chen Zhao's voice was as loud as a bell. Father gasped, full of shock. This was not a betrothal gift at all. It was presenting the entire northern border to me. I clenched the token, feeling its heavy weight in my fingertips, and sneered in my heart. Xiao Jingyan Qinghe, look at the man I chose. He is thousands of miles away, but he can give me the whole world. At that moment, the funeral bell rang leisurely from the palace. After 9 rings, heaven and earth fell into solemn silence. The crown prince was dead. Father staggered, almost falling. Chen Xiao and the black-armored soldiers knelt on one knee towards the palace. I tightly clutched the token, the cold touch making me extremely sober. Xiao Jingyan, you finally died, a full month earlier than in my previous life. It was I, this reborn butterfly, who accelerated your downfall. Pass my order. Take over the security of 100 zhang radius centered on the Prime Minister's mansion with the black-armored army. No one is allowed to enter or exit without my handwritten order. I ordered calmly. Chen Xiao immediately deployed, and the black-armored soldiers scattered like ghosts, turning the Prime Minister's mansion into an impenetrable fortress in an instant. Before father entered the palace to mourn, he repeatedly told me to be careful in everything. After he left, I instructed Yunju to inquire about the news from Qingfeng Courtyard and the East Palace. Half an hour later, Yunju reported back. Miss, when the madam heard the funeral bell, she went crazy, crying that her dream of becoming an empress was shattered and even tried to hit the wall. Second miss had a miscarriage scare on the spot and fell into a coma. The imperial physician said the child might not be saved. I picked up my teacup, my eyes cold. Not saved. That wouldn't do. That evil seed was a great gift. I prepared for Qinghe and mother. How could it disappear so easily? Yunju, prepare the carriage. Let's go to the East Palace. I stood up, a sharp light flashing in my eyes. I'm going to visit my sister and help her protect the fetus by the way. The East Palace was already covered with white streamers, a scene of sorrow and despair. My carriage passed unimpeded under the protection of the black-armored army. The guards at the gate did not dare to question when they saw the symbol of Prince Qinghe's mansion. Stepping into Qinghe's bedroom, a strong smell of blood and medicine hit my nose. The imperial physicians were kneeling all over the ground, their faces ashen. When the maids saw me entering, they all knelt down. I dismissed everyone, walked to the bed, and looked down at Qinghe, whose face was as pale as paper. She slowly opened her eyes, and when she saw it was me, her eyes were instantly filled with fear and resentment. Suzy! It's you who killed His Royal Highness and harmed me. Sister, you can't talk nonsense. I opened the food box, which contained a bowl of anti-miscarriage medicine. His Royal Highness failed in virtue and was unlucky. The child in your belly is the Crown Prince's only bloodline. If he is lost, do you think Father Emperor will punish you? Will he give you a white silk to commit suicide, or send you to a nunnery to end your days? Qinghe's face turned pale, and she trembled all over. I poured the medicine on the brocade quilt and whispered in her ear. In my previous life, you and Mother ended my life with a bowl of poison. In this life, I won't let you die so easily. I want you to live well, give birth to this evil seed, and guard the memorial tablet of the dead and the illegitimate child, rotting slowly in the deep palace. You devil! Qinghe screamed. I stood up straight and said coldly to the imperial physicians at the door, the Crown Prince's only bloodline must be saved. You can decide what medicine to use. If you can't save it, you and your families will all be buried with this unborn imperial grandson. After saying that, I walked away, leaving behind the sound of the imperial physicians kowtowing repeatedly. Shortly after returning to the Prime Minister's mansion, an imperial decree came from the palace. The emperor summoned me to the imperial study. The palace at night was even more solemn, with white streamers fluttering in the wind, exuding a dead coldness. Inside the imperial study, the emperor was wearing casual clothes, standing by the window, his figure lonely. Your servant's daughter Suzy pays homage to Your Majesty. I knelt down to salute. Stand up. The emperor turned around, his eyes sharp as an eagle. My crown prince is dead, but you don't seem sad at all. From the moment your servant's daughter voluntarily requested to annul the marriage contract, I have severed all ties with the crown prince. Now I am the future Princess Qinghe, and my thoughts are centered on Prince Qinghe first and Your Majesty above all. I dare not let past people and events disturb my peace of mind. I replied with my head bowed, both stating my position and elevating the emperor and Prince Qinghe. A trace of satisfaction flashed in the emperor's eyes. Do you like the betrothal gifts Feng'er sent? The prince's kindness overwhelms me, Your Majesty. It's not kindness but a trust. The emperor interrupted me. He has handed over the back of the northern border to you. Do you know how heavy this trust is? I raised my head and looked directly at him. Your servant's daughter knows, and I will live up to it. The crown prince was poisoned to death. The emperor changed the subject, his voice cold. Someone mixed a rare Western poison into his tonic. Over time, even gods couldn't save him. The one who delivered the medicine was Qinghe, and behind her were your mother and the Zhang family. They wanted the crown prince to die, so that the evil seed could become the crown grandson, supporting the infant to ascend the throne, so that the Zhang family could imitate the foreign relatives of the previous dynasty to usurp power. He threw a file at me. I bent down to pick it up, my fingertips cold. So Xiao Jingyan's death in my previous life was also their doing. A surge of hatred almost burst out of my chest. I tightly clutched the file, maintaining my calm on the surface. May I ask what Your Majesty wants your servant's daughter to do? The evil seed in Qinghe's belly can't die for the time being. I want to use him as bait to catch the Zhang family's rats. The emperor's eyes were full of killing intent. I bestow upon you a golden medal to supervise the East Palace on my behalf. Qinghe's anti-miscarriage care, medication, diet, and the deployment of the East Palace's servants are all under your control. Before the evil seed is born, lay out all the evidence of the Zhang family's treason in front of me. Your servant's daughter obeys the order. I kowtowed to accept the order, and a raging fire of anger ignited in my heart. Mother, the Zhang family, you personally handed the butcher's knife to me. In this life, I will definitely make you lose your reputation and die by your own schemes. Holding the golden medal, I returned to the East Palace overnight. I sealed off the bedroom, dismissed the original palace maids, and only kept Yunju by my side. I searched the room carefully, and finally found a small white jade bomb box at the bottom of the dressing table drawer. The box was empty, with a faint sweet fishy smell remaining. The same smell as that cup of poisoned wine in my previous life. Carved on the bottom of the box was a small ginkgo leaf mark. which was the symbol of Silver Leaf Workshop under the Zhang family. Yunzhu Silver Leaf Workshop is the Zhang family's medicinal herb shop, specializing in rare and exotic herbs from the western regions. I sneered. Now it seems that it's even a deadly poison workshop. At that moment, Chen Xiao reported outside the door. Princess, the old Madame Zhang requests an audience. Grandmother was here. Perfect. Let her in. I hid the bomb box in my sleeve. Old Madame Zhang was dressed in her imperial foreigner's costume, holding a dragon-headed crutch, and walked in with a sad face. When she saw Su Qinghe, she was about to pounce on her, but I stopped her. Grandmother, it's late at night. Sister's fetus is unstable, and the imperial physician ordered her to rest quietly. His Majesty has decreed that no one is allowed to visit. I deliberately emphasized the words His Majesty's decree and imperial heir. Old Madame Zhang's face changed slightly, trying to pressure me with family ties. You have the Zhang family's blood flowing in your veins. Qinghe is your own sister. How can you be so heartless? Precisely because we are biological sisters, I want to think about her even more. I refuse to give in an inch. The crown prince has just passed away, and sister is pregnant. This is a critical time. If outsiders come and go freely and something goes wrong, who will take the responsibility, the Su family or you and the Zhang family, grandmother? Old Madame Zhang was choked, her face turning red with anger, and her eyes showed undisguised killing intent. She knew that I was no longer the granddaughter she could manipulate at will. In the end, she had no choice but to leave with unwillingness and resentment. Send someone to keep an eye on old Madame Zhang. See who she meets and what she says when she goes back. I instructed Yunzhu. In addition, let Deputy Commander Chan send capable men to thoroughly investigate Silver Leaf Workshop. Late at night, Chen Xiao reported. Princess, a fire broke out at Silver Leaf Workshop. The shop, account books, and clerks were all burned to ashes. The governor said it was an accidental fire. But this subordinate found a section of carriage axle engraved with the Zhang family's emblem in the ruins of the fire scene. What an accidental fire! The Zhang family acted quickly, but unfortunately, they made a mistake. Deputy Commander Chen, immediately take people to the fire scene again. Say that you are ordered by me to thoroughly investigate the Crown Prince's poisoning case. Make as much noise as possible so that the whole city knows I have my eye on Silver Leaf Workshop. I ordered. After father goes to court at dawn, he only needs to look worried in front of His Majesty. Then I wrote a secret memorial, detailing 3 things. The suspicious fire at Silver Leaf Workshop, the discovery of the Zhang family's carriage wreckage at the fire scene, and the finding of the poison bomb box. I sealed it together with the bomb box and ordered Chen Xiao to send it to the chief eunuch Li Duquan overnight. Tell him this is the first answer sheet presented to His Majesty by Princess Qinghe. At dawn, the Crown Prince's death and the fire at Silver Leaf Workshop became the focus of discussion in the capital. And I, Su Zi, had transformed from a poor abandoned wife to an unfathomable goddess of revenge. At the morning court, several censors related to the Zhang family launched an attack, accusing me, a woman, of blocking the East Palace, which violated the ancestral system. The emperor looked at father, who bowed and replied, My daughter's actions may be inappropriate, but they are all to protect the Crown Prince's bloodline and thoroughly investigate the cause of death. This matter is of great importance. My daughter is young, and I worry day and night that she will fail Your Majesty's grace. These words hit the nail on the head. The emperor's face turned dark. The Crown Prince died suddenly, and the real culprit has not been arrested. Instead of worrying about solving the problem, you are tangled up in rules? Su Zi is the future Princess Qinghe, and she is investigating the case by my order. Anyone who dares to criticize again is questioning the imperial power. Whoever can find the real culprit will be granted the title of Duke. Those who obstruct the investigation will be punished as accomplices of the Crown Prince. As soon as the imperial decree was issued, the censors who impeached me turned ashen-faced, and all the civil and military officials dared not make a sound. Father straightened his back under the complicated gazes of everyone. This round, the Su family won again. When the news from the court came back, I was taking care of Su Qinghe in the East Palace. After the imperial physician's rescue, her life and the child in her belly were temporarily saved. She was awake, her eyes empty and resentful, staring at me fiercely. Sister, it's time to drink the anti-miscarriage medicine. I held the medicine bowl, smiling gently. This is a prescription personally written by the director of the Imperial Hospital, using 1,000-year-old ginseng and 100-year-old Ganoderma. Am I good to you, sister? Get out. She roared and turned her head away. I poured the medicine on the brocade and sighed softly. What an expensive medicine, and you're wasting it again. Your only value now is the piece of flesh in your belly. If you want to live, you have to give birth to him safely. Kill me. She collapsed and cried. Killing you would be too easy. I leaned down and whispered in her ear. I want you to watch me marry Prince Qinghe in style, watch your mother and the Zhang family be destroyed, and then live as a widow for your illegitimate child for the rest of your life. She trembled all over, her eyes filled with fear worse than death. I noticed that she was clutching a rough piece talisman in her hand and snatched it away. Opening it, there was no talisman paper inside. Only a lock of hair tied with a red string and a note that said, "Wait for me," signed, Yan. Zhang Yan, my cousin, the most valued grandson of the Zhang family. In my previous life, I only knew that Su Qinghe had an affair with the crown prince, but I never knew there was such a dirty secret behind it. This evil seed was not the crown prince's at all. It was Zhang Yan's. What a big scheme the Zhang family had. They let Su Qinghe seduce the crown prince, get pregnant with the Zhang family's bloodline, poison the crown prince, and then stage a swap the prince with a civet cat, to let the Zhang family's bloodline ascend the throne. A surge of anger and nausea welled up in my heart. I held the note, looked at Su Qinghe's panicked and desperate face and smiled. I not only won't tell anyone, but I will also tell His Majesty that the child in your belly is the true dragon's bloodline, and must be protected at all costs. I will let Zhang Yan watch you give birth to another man's child, suffer in longing and fear, and finally expose everything in front of him, making the Zhang family be executed for the crime of deceiving the emperor. You madman! Su Qinghe screamed. I put away the peace talisman and the note and ordered Qian Shao. Thoroughly investigate Zhang Yan. Report all his movements, the people he met, and the places he went in the past 6 months, no matter how trivial. Qian Shao was efficient and brought back the news in half a day. On the surface, Zhang Yan was a playboy who wandered in brothels, but secretly, he sneaked into a private courtyard in the suburbs through a secret passage every 15th day. That was Su Qinghe's private property. In the hidden compartment of the bedroom in the courtyard, they found all the letters between Zhang Yan and Su Qinghe, which were full of adultery and the ambition to seize the country. Send a letter to Zhang Yan in Su Qinghe's name, saying that I am going to harm the child in her belly tonight, and tell him to come to the East Palace to rescue her immediately. I said to Yunju, Miss, this is letting a wolf into the house. Yunju was shocked. No, this is inviting the tiger into the trap. A cold light flashed in my eyes. I want him to completely collapse in front of me. Late at night, in Su Qinghe's bedroom in the East Palace, I dismissed everyone, leaving only Qian Shao and his men hiding in the dark. Su Qinghe was trembling with fear, while I peeled oranges for her leisurely. As soon as midnight passed, a black shadow slipped into the palace. It was Zhang Yan. Qinghe. He tore off his mask, and froze instantly when he saw the scene in the room. I put a piece of orange in my mouth and said slowly, Cousin, you have a lot of courage to break into the forbidden area of the East Palace privately. Zhang Yan's face turned from anxious to shocked, then to extreme panic. Suzy, it's your trick. I pointed to Su Qinghe on the bed and threw the letters at his feet. Take a look at your touching love story and your clever plan of swapping the prince with a civet cat. When Zhang Yan saw the letters, he collapsed to the ground. You know everything? Otherwise, why would I invite you here? I stood up and looked down at him. When the Zhang family poisoned me and plotted against the entire Su family, why didn't you say we were family? Don't push me. A fierce light flashed in Zhang Yan's eyes. I want to see what other tricks the Zhang family can play. The emperor's cold and majestic voice came from behind the screen. He walked out surrounded by Qian Shao and the imperial guards. When Zhang Yan saw the emperor, his face turned as pale as paper, and his pants were soaked. Your Majesty! I knelt down and saluted. Your Majesty, the culprit is caught red-handed. The emperor glanced at Zhang Yan on the ground, his eyes full of killing intent. Someone arrest this traitor. Issue an order to thoroughly investigate the Zhang family. All those involved will be thrown into the sky prison. Su Qinghe and the evil seed in her belly will die with the crown prince. Zhang Yan was dragged away by the imperial guards, his screams shrill. The emperor looked at me, his tone softening a lot. You did well. The crown prince was muddle-headed and almost shook the foundation of the country. If it weren't for you, I would have no face to see my ancestors after I die. He changed the subject. The war in the northern border is stalemated. The barbarian army is pressing down on the border, and Xiaofeng is almost unable to hold on. The Zhang family colluded with the Ministry of Personnel to embezzle the military provisions and pay in the northern border. This is a fatal blow. Your Majesty, don't worry. The moths in the capital have been eliminated. Within 3 days, the military provisions and pay will set off for the north. They will never delay the frontline affairs. My tone was firm. The emperor was overjoyed. Good. I allow you to handle the follow-up of the Zhang family case with full authority, without any restrictions. When Xiaofeng returns triumphantly, I will personally officiate your wedding. Within 3 days, the capital was turned upside down. Zhang Song, the Minister of Personnel, confessed, handing over the hiding place of the embezzled military pay and the list of accomplices. The emperor was furious, issuing one imperial decree after another. The officialdom ushered in an unprecedented purge. Qian Shao led his men to accurately raid the Zhang family's forces. The once bustling Zhang mansion now only had the imperial guard seal fluttering in the wind. On the morning of the 3rd day, on the official road outside the capital, a 10-li-long convoy was ready to depart, loaded with grain, cotton-padded clothes and medicinal materials. Each carriage was inserted with a black Su general flag. That was father's flag back then, and now it would go to the northern border on my behalf, to Xiaofeng's side. I stood on the city tower wearing a white fox fur coat, watching the convoy go north. Yunju held an umbrella behind me to block the snow. Miss, everything is done, I replied softly, catching a snowflake in my palm, which melted instantly. My body was tired but my heart was burning. I imagined Xiaofeng's expression when he saw the convoy and the general flag. He would definitely know it was me. At Yanmen Pass in the northern border, the wind and snow were like knives. Xiaofeng, dressed in black armor, stood on the city wall, his eyes sharp as an eagle. His deputy Zhou Yong looked worried. General, the last grain reserve is only enough for 3 days. If we don't get supplies, the brothers won't be able to hold on. There had been no medicine in the army for a month. Moans came from the barracks for the wounded every night. The soldiers' winter clothes were tattered, relying only on their courage to resist the severe cold. The crown prince was dead, and there was chaos in the court. They seemed to have become forgotten chess pieces. At that moment, a scout came galloping on horseback, falling to the ground. Report! A large convoy was found 30 li outside the pass, full of flags. Its grain and military supplies. The city tower erupted in exclamations instantly. Xiaofeng grabbed the scout's collar, his voice trembling with imperceptible emotion. What do the flags look like? The leading carriage is inserted with a black general flag with only one character, Su, on it. Su. Xiaofeng's mind exploded. It was her Suzy. At his most difficult moment, she had reversed the deadlock in the capital with her own strength and sent the life-saving supplies thousands of miles away. He couldn't imagine how much she had paid. That gentle and quiet woman actually had such powerful strength in her body. Pass my order. Open the city gate. The whole army goes out to welcome them. Xiaofeng's voice was loud, resounding through the city tower. The city gate of Yanmen Pass slowly opened, and the wind and snow poured in, but no one felt cold. When the first grain cart entered the city, the veteran soldiers knelt down and cried bitterly, and countless iron-blooded men shed tears of joy. It was the ecstasy of being rescued from the brink of death. The supplies were counted until late at night. Xiaofeng inspected the warehouse, looking at the neatly stacked grain, medicinal materials and cotton-padded clothes. The heart that had been tense for months finally relaxed. A personal soldier walked over holding a red sandalwood box. General, this was found under the general flag of the leading carriage, with instructions to be personally delivered to you. Xiaofeng opened the box. Inside was an elegant note with 5 delicate characters written on it. Take care, waiting for your return. Under the note lay a withered but intact wintersweet. He remembered that the red plums in Prince Qinghe's mansion were her favorite. Stroking the wondersuite with his fingertips, he whispered in his heart, Wait for me to pacify the northern border, and then I will return to the capital to protect you for the rest of your life. At the same time, in the court of the capital, the vacant official positions after the fall of the Zhang family triggered covetousness from all sides. The emperor summoned me to ask about the strategy for appointing officials. Your servant's daughter believes that we should promote based on merit, regardless of background. I said frankly, promoting talented people from poor families can not only inject new blood, but also let scholars all over the world see Your Majesty's wisdom. The emperor praised me and ordered me to assist the Minister of Personnel in handling the matter. Half a month later, the battle report from the northern border and Xiao Feng's personal letter arrived together. The battle report stated that Xiao Feng had ambushed the barbarians when they were relaxed, defeated 30,000 enemy troops, and repelled the enemy for 100 li. Xiao Feng's letter mostly contained military situation analysis, but at the end, he wrote a small note. The plum has been received. The northern land is bitter and cold, looking forward to spring. You should also take care. Looking at the small characters under the candlelight, the corners of my mouth curled up unconsciously. When the northern border was pacified and the spring breeze blew, I would spread a 10 li red dowry in the capital, waiting for his return. However, before the spring breeze arrived, undercurrents had already surged. The veteran ministers led by the Grand Secretary Wang Duan used ancestral rules to hinder the new policies, and the promotion of scholars from poor families progressed slowly. The second prince suddenly appeared frequently, gentle and elegant, respecting the virtuous and cherishing the talented. He took the initiative to support my initiatives, and even set up a hall of seeking virtue to recruit scholars, gaining a good reputation, and faintly showing signs of competing with me. I was well aware of the crisis under this peace, but I still promoted the new policies step by step. After the beginning of spring, Lin Yuan, the Vice Minister of Personnel, presided over a special imperial examination. The list of new jinshi was praised by everyone. But on the day before the official appointment, anonymous reports were sent to the censorate, exposing fraud in the imperial examination, claiming that Lin Yuan had accepted bribes and leaked the exam questions, with complete witnesses and evidence. Overnight, public opinion reversed. The failed scholars besieged the East Palace. The veteran ministers such as Wang Duan launched an attack at the morning court, demanding severe punishment for Lin Yuan and revoking my right to assist in handling affairs. The second prince pretended to intercede, but actually hit me when I was down. The emperor looked at me. What do you have to say? Your servant's daughter believes in Lin Yuan. Please give your servant's daughter 3 days. I will definitely find out the truth, clear Vice Minister Lin's name, and give an explanation to scholars all over the world. I straightened my back. During these 3 days, all clues pointed to Lin Yuan, as if a net had been cast, leaving me with no way to start. Rumors abounded in the capital, saying that I was about to lose power. On the evening of the 3rd day, I sat alone in the study, feeling powerless. At that moment, Yunju brought an 800 li urgent letter from the northern border, a personal letter from Xiao Feng with only a few words. The barbarian high priest is good at using interlocking schemes. To break his plan, you must abandon the surface and attack the core. The capital is like a battlefield, be careful. Abandon the surface and attack the core. I suddenly realized. I had been stuck on clearing Lin Yuan's name, but forgot that the real target was me. Lin Yuan was the surface, and I was the core. Yunju, immediately investigate the people who have been in contact with the second prince's mansion and Grand Secretary Wang's mansion recently. At dawn, I entered the court dressed in grand attire. Facing Wang Duan's questioning, I directly knelt down in front of the emperor. Your servant's daughter is incompetent. I have not found the truth about Lin Yuan's fraud, but I have found another thing. I held up the account book. This is the account book of the second prince's Hall of Seeking Virtue. In the name of sponsorship, he distributed 30,000 taels of silver to dozens of failed scholars. These are the main forces besieging the palace gate now. The second prince's face changed drastically. False accusations. If you love talent so much, why don't you sponsor the new jinshi? Why only sponsor the resentful failed scholars? I turned to the emperor. There are many doubts in Lin Yuan's case, but the second prince's intention to raise scholars, criticize the court, and shake the foundation of the country is obvious. Please Your Majesty thoroughly investigate. As the court fell into chaos, the sound of horse hooves and the collision of armor came from outside the hall. The Imperial Guard commander rushed in. Report! General Xiao Feng of the northern border led 3,000 light cavalry to the palace gate. He said that the northern border has achieved a great victory, the barbarians have been eliminated, and he specially returned to the capital to report his achievements. The whole hall fell into silence. I suddenly raised my head, my eyes moist. He was back, my general was back. The emperor was overjoyed and ordered Xiao Feng to enter the hall. Xiao Feng, dressed in black armor and covered with wind and frost, strode in, with the barbarian high priest imprisoned behind him. Your servant is fortunate to live up to the mission. I completely annihilated the main force of the barbarian royal court at the foot of Mount Langjutsu, beheaded their Khan, and captured their high priest. The trouble in the northern border has been eliminated. The emperor personally helped him up. Xiao Feng's gaze swept across the hall, and finally fell on me. Thousands of words were contained in that look. He turned to the high priest and said coldly, "Speak. Who ordered you to send people to sneak into the capital, collude with officials in the court, forge evidence to frame court officials, and disrupt the court situation?" The high priest looked at the second prince in horror, not daring to speak. The second prince's face turned as pale as paper, and Wang Duan collapsed to the ground. The truth came to light. The emperor issued an imperial decree. The second prince was deposed as a commoner and confined for life. Wang Duan and his party members were either executed or exiled. Lin Yuan was cleared of his charges, and the new policies were no longer hindered. On the day the dust settled, it snowed again in the capital. I stood under the red plum tree in the East Palace, and a snowflake fell in my palm. Steady footsteps came from behind, and a warm black fur coat was draped over me. The winter in the capital is over. I said softly, "Yes, I'm back." Xiao Feng pulled the fur coat tightly around me, his voice deep and gentle. I turned around and looked into his deep eyes. There was no longer any killing or coldness, only full of tenderness. "Xiao Feng, spring has come." He stretched out his hand and hugged me tightly in his arms. His embrace was firm and warm, just as I had expected countless times. I still owe you a 10 li red dowry." Yes, spring had come. Our spring had finally arrived. From then on, the rivers and mountains were peaceful and the people were safe, and by my side, there would always be that general who could shield me from all the wind and snow.